Hey guys, what's up? This is Bret. Welcome to this week's Friday on the Turntable. Today is Friday, March 29th, 2013 AD. Here after, well, what time is it? Around close to 11 p.m. So I know it's late in the day, so most of you are going to be seeing this either Saturday morning or late Friday night. So today, as you can tell from the heading, we're talking about Gary Numan, The Pleasure Principle. 1979. You know the drill. Before we talk about the album, I'm going to give you context of what also came out in 1979. Blondie's Eat to the Beat. My favorite Blondie album, primarily because my absolute two favorite Blondie songs are on this album, Union City Blue and Shayla. Those are just, I know they're not probably typical songs that are favorites of people, but those two songs, especially Union City Blue, just phenomenal. And then Dreaming as the opening track, and then you also have Atomic on this. Die Young, Stay Pretty, Accidents Never Happen. Just a great album. Blondie. One of my absolute favorite albums of all time also came out in 1979, and that is Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures. David Bowie's Lodger, also from 1979. The third album of his so-called Berlin trilogy. And here's one for the rockers out there. Van Halen 2, 1979. And the last one I'm going to show you here is a little segue into, also kind of shows you just kind of how prior to these days, in the last, 20 years, how quickly bands turned around albums. Gary Numan also released this earlier in 1979, and this was Replicas, which was under Two Boy Army. His band had the name Two Boy Army, and this was the second Two Boy Army album. And this album was reissued, and it was also called Two Boy Army. Gary Numan, Two Boy Army, because they capitalized on the success after this album, so they reissued it with that on there. So, which gets us to The Pleasure Principle. Like I said, that was the last album to go under Two Boy Army. So this was his first album under the name Gary Numan. But technically it's his third album, so depending on how you look at it. And this came out in September 25th, 1979. Also, I should mention Pink Floyd's The Wall, 1979, or Throbbing Gristle's 20 Jazz Funk Greats. Oh, I had a whole list of stuff here, but I'm sure you guys have a lot that come to your mind when you think of 1979. So yeah, September 25th, 1979, and what's also interesting about this is he abandoned guitars completely. So this album was mostly synth, violin, viola, drums, and bass guitar. And the band at the time was Paul Gardner on bass, who was a longtime friend of his, who passed away in around, I think it was in 1984, heroin overdose, really tragic. Christopher Payne played keyboards, viola, and then Cedric Sharpley drums. And Cedric Sharpley died about a year ago of a heart attack, which is really sad. But a couple of the guys started a band after Gary Numan kind of retired. Shortly after, I think it was the Telecon album, he kind of retired for a little while. And the other guys went on to form a band called Dramatists, and they had some hit singles and stuff. But also Billy Currie played violin on this one, and Billy Currie was in Ultravox. A little interesting fact about that. When it comes down to it, I have to say that this is my favorite Gary Numan album, probably because it's the first one I ever had. I bought this early on. This is the same vinyl copy I've had since I was a teenager. And while two of my absolute favorite Gary Numan songs are on the album I showed before, Replicas, Down in the Park, and Our Friends Electric, I think as a complete album, The Pleasure Principle has always been my favorite. The singles that were released on this one were Complex and Cars. Cars, everyone knows that song, and Complex is kind of a pretty depressing ballad. Really unusual arrangement, as I think it's viola in it, and it's just some of those lines in there. It just always makes me sad when I hear it. But the line, please keep them away, don't let them touch me. Please don't let them lie, don't let them see me. I don't know, it's kind of an interesting, someone who's perhaps has a lot of social anxiety, or also someone who's achieving fame and needs a real separation from from their fans, possibly. But just a little thing. This was also an interesting little tidbit. Gary Numan produced this himself, but it was mastered at Strawberry Studios. And for those of you that are familiar with Joy Division, you'll know that Joy Division recorded Unknown Pleasures at Strawberry. Just a little tidbit of information there. And then when they recorded this, when they were demoing the tracks for this album, some of the parts I read that they couldn't really recreate when they went to record the full album, like the violins or the violas on Complex, so they actually left the original demo parts, which was also kind of made me think about, for those of you familiar with Peter Murphy's song "Cut You Up," I had read a long time ago, they when they demoed the song, they did that little melody theme that's played, you know, the song ba-na-na-na-na-na-na. They originally played it on a keyboard, and then when they went to recreate it with actually real strings, cello, or whatever they were going to use, they just couldn't get that same sound, so they ended up leaving the original parts into it. So kind of something that happens. It's hard to recreate that magic that happens in the demo stage. Then you go to do it, and it just doesn't live up to that same magic when you go to record their album. Kind of an interesting little fact for me about Gary Numan. You know, I've had this album since I was a teenager, and from around 1991, I mean, the Cars video was played on MTV all the time. You couldn't escape it. It was just such a great song, and it's been covered and it's been remade even by Gary Numan. Just a little thing. Whenever I think of this album, The Pleasure Principle, I think of it was from 1991 to around middle 1995. I had really long hair. I mean, I had hair down to the middle of my back. I had a real long, pointy, devilish-looking goatee. Sometimes my hair was completely blue and long, and I had a red goatee. Anyways, I looked pretty crazy. But I'll show you a little picture here. This is from around 1993. Hopefully, you can see it here. There's me there with long hair, and so one day I was watching MTV late at night, and the video for Cars came on, and I don't know what hit me, but I saw Gary Numan singing, and I just thought he looked just so cool. So I just went in the bathroom and I took some, you know, the scissors with the orange handles that everyone has in their house, and I just cut off all my hair. And it was such a bizarre thing because I had a show the other night, an Audra show the other night, and when I showed up for to get the equipment, and another guy was in the band. He didn't even know who I was when I went to go meet him. He thought I was just some strange guy, and my sister didn't recognize me. It was pretty funny. But as I was digging through photos, coincidentally, I found this photograph of me on stage. I think it's from around 1999 with short hair and glasses. But it was really funny because if you look closely here, there's a guy in the crowd with a Gary Numan t-shirt on, which was kind of random there. So hopefully that's visible. So getting back, this copy I have here, oh, there's the band there, kind of a recreation of them. This was put out on Atco Records there. Like I said, two singles were Complex and Cars. Cars had a B-side called Asylum, which was an instrumental track. Other favorites on here, well, it opens up with a cool instrumental called Air Lane, but some of my other favorites, besides Complex and Cars, which are phenomenal tracks, but also the song Metal, great. Films, Me or M.E., which according to Gary Numan is a song written from the perspective of the last living machine on Earth. The Earth is in complete desolation, no living beings, and there's one machine left, and that's what that song is written perspective. Sorry guys, I'm sniffling. I'm having some allergies here in Arizona. This time of the year, the orange trees bloom, and there's this beautiful fragrance that you drive around at night, and it's just overwhelming. But when you're allergic to it, it's also not great, and it just happens at night, and then it's just like a little overwhelming. So sorry about that. So Gary Numan, this was also reissued on CD. They did a reissue campaign sometime in the 90s on Beggar's Banquet, and this was the reissue CD. I'll pull out the little insert here in case there's a glare, but just, you know, obviously it's a smaller version of it. But this, not only does it have the whole track listing, but it has the B-side Asylum along with two demos, Random and Oceans, and then it has some live tracks, which takes me to this next little thing, little interesting thing is this little box that I have, Gary Numan Living Ornaments 79 to 1980. It's a 2-record set, and the 79 one was from the tour of the Pleasure Principle album, and a really phenomenal live document of that recording. In this actual box set, there's a really interesting story behind it. I'll show you the spine on that one. One day I went into this record store, and I think it was in Tempe back then, Stinkweeds, and I found this, and I think it was really like $8 or something, and I took it home, and this is like so long ago, and I bought it. So my friend Jesse, who you guys know, a Super Turbo Blur, he came over to my house, and he saw it, and he goes, "I just traded that in at Stinkweeds," and so I actually bought his copy unknowingly, and then now he regrets it, and every time he sees it, he wants it back. But you know how that goes. Sorry, Jesse. No, he's just messing. So I got to see Gary Numan live, and I thought it was 1997, but it was 1998, and I pulled out my ticket stub. It was a place called the Bash on Ash on Mill Avenue, downtown Tempe, and I saw him on Wednesday, May 20th, 1998, and the show looks like it was $12. Sponsored by the Edge radio station. The band Switchblade Symphony opened up. We actually played with Switchblade Symphony once. They were kind of they were a female. They were on Cleopatra Records, which is a goth label, so they were kind of a goth band fronted by 2 females. Well, and yeah, they were all right. And yeah, so I saw Gary Numan. Really one of the best shows I've ever seen. The way they transformed these old songs with a real hard edge, I was just really blown away. And then in 2006, I didn't get to go to this show for some reason, but it was on August 22nd. I was busy that night, but my brother and my friend Jesse went, and they brought this home for me, autographed Gary Numan ticket stub, which was really cool. So thanks, guys, for that. I'm glad I saved that, because it's always nice to pull that out and show it. So what else was I gonna say about this? I think that covered it all. But like I said, a lot of people, you know, because it's an album that's been with me for so long that I just assume everyone knows who Gary Numan is. So for those of you guys that don't know Gary Numan, you really can't go wrong if you find Replicas, The Pleasure Principle, or Telecon, which is the album that followed this one. But if there's one track, a couple tracks to go look for. Cars, you may not know it if you know just by hearing me talk about it, but if you look it up on YouTube, listen to Cars. You should know that track. It's just a phenomenal piece of music. Also, another one, Down in the Park, is a great track, and Our Friends Electric is also just really killer. If I Die, You Die is another really good one that was on the Telecon album. So this is Gary Numan, The Pleasure Principle. You come across this one in the racks, definitely pick it up. Bret recommended it. So thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for subscribing and for sticking around watching my videos. I really appreciate all the feedback and the comments and the emails and all the words of encouragement. Thank you guys for participating in that second album's thread. I still keep seeing videos from that, and it's really great to hear your guys' words, and happy that I'm turning some of you guys onto some music you weren't aware of. So that really that makes me happy to know that you guys are out there listening and buying stuff. So take care, guys.